Urban legends and terrifying myths of all kinds seem to surface from all around the world. These come in the form of paranormal and extraterrestrial accounts and spread through a town or region like wildfire. Some of these mysteries tend to never leave the region in which they first began, whereas others might make national headlines all around the world in their appearance. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we will be covering 5 mysterious legends that come from the country of Vietnam. The demonic grandmother. Unlike Western culture, Asian households quite normally hold traditions that center around the younger generations, both respecting and caring for their elders as they grow older. This leads to the average household not only including the parents and their children as members of the household, but also the elders that come to live with them as they are cared for in their old age. It's because of these traditions of care and respect that this ancient Vietnamese legend seems so out of place amongst the beliefs of the Vietnamese people. Before the advent of the modern-day industrialization of Vietnam, the average Vietnamese household resided within small agricultural villages that were made up of only a handful of independent families. This forced the families to farm not only for the agricultural needs of their country and economic development, but for the families to live off themselves. If crop yields were far too low to profit from, however, this would lead to the villages also maintaining their personal food supply by hunting nearby wildlife and small animals. Unfortunately, the modern-day refrigeration units were not widely available and other preservation techniques were impossible to use with an environment that stayed well within tropical climates all year round. This forced the villagers to smoke and dry out any meat they could gather, hanging their dried meats within a small fenced-in area within their plot of land to prevent wild animals from devouring the meat that, without the use of fencing, would sit outside in the open. Despite the fencing, however, it appeared that almost every night a portion of the meat would go missing, leading many in the village to suspect that some rabid animal was entering the fencing as the bite marks on the pieces of meat were massive and implied jaws fit for tearing. This led to a number of men in the village to stay up through the night in the hopes of catching the animal responsible and preventing it from eating the rest of the stored meats. That night, as the men were up watching the meat, they began to notice one of the elderly women walking throughout the village with her body completely covered in cloth. The village men recognized the elderly woman as being one of the grandmothers of the village of whom was undergoing a sickness. This had lasted several weeks, and it said that the woman needed assistance. As they got close to her, they realized she was not in need of assistance, but rather that she was absurdly strong and able to jump several fences in the village, while making strange, snarling noises as she went after the stored meats. The men watched as the grandmother ripped through the meat with an enlarged jaw that seemed inhuman, leading many to believe that she was possessed by a monster. By the next night, the men barricaded the meat storage and believed that the new fencing and construction would be more than enough to prevent the grandmother from entering the food storage and eating any of the meat, a plan that both yielded incredible success and terror. During the night, as the grandmother had attempted to enter the meat storage, she found that she was unable to and so tried to find another source of food capable of satisfying her hunger. This would lead to a number of families all across the village to wake up in the morning to find the half-eaten villagers. The locals then feared the lady, as they worried she would continue her dark quest for blood. Tunnel rat demons. Referred to by the Vietnamese as the tunnel rat demons, there are believed to be demons that burrow through the ground. It's then said they come out at night and attempt to grab anyone of whom happens to pass by the homes of the evil spirits. The legend first originated during the years following the Vietnam War, after the American forces pulled out of the region. According to the Vietnamese, during the Vietnam War, many American soldiers had passed away when they attempted to enter the dugout holes used by the Vietnamese soldiers. During the war, Vietnamese soldiers created the underground holes to help them make orchestrated attacks all across the country, and would booby-trap the entrances of the holes with trip mines to prevent American soldiers from following the fighters. It's believed that these deaths caused by the trapped holes is what spawned the creation of the tunnel rat demons, of whom are nothing more than the trapped souls of the American soldiers that still believe a never-ending war is raging on, and so must attack any Vietnamese citizens passing by where they had passed away. Monsters within the trees. Similar to the legend surrounding that of the tunnel rat demons, the monsters referred to as the monsters within the trees are also that of paranormal entities. The stories tell of them being birthed from the casualties of the Vietnam War. For many unaware of the sniper tactics used by the Viet Cong during the Vietnam War, it was common for the Viet Cong soldiers to use the tallest and densest trees that filled the jungles of their country as sniper towers. This would allow the soldier to be hidden in the overgrowth of the tree branches, while also having a clear line of sight to any American soldiers passing throughout the region. This meant that a large number of casualties from the American side was caused by these camouflaged snipers. They would stay perched at the top of the trees for several days at a time. It was due to these impossible to predict tactics that the American soldiers began deploying the use of large chemical agents all across the jungles known as Agent Orange. Agent Orange, a tactical herbicide created by the United States military scientists, was a newly discovered chemical that was capable of causing the trees and vegetation to immediately wither and die. It caused the vegetation to slowly wither and disappear, removing the camouflaged protection that the Viet Cong soldiers were using to gain their wartime advantage. Although American soldiers and the local Viet Cong were told that the herbicide was safe for humans, rumors from the Vietnamese quickly spread surrounding their hidden snipers getting the worst of the Agent Orange herbicide poured over them as planes passed overhead, causing horrible transformations in the soldiers and leading them to take on new and disgusting figures. Legends began to spread of these once valuable Vietnamese soldiers becoming nothing more than mindless monsters living within the trees of the forest. Many believe that perhaps such legends were spread in an attempt to further negative propaganda towards the American forces, painting the United States Army as mad scientists slowly transforming the Vietnamese into monsters. However, the legend would continue to grow even after the war had long since ended. Today, some newborns that come from the region of those most affected by the Agent Orange herbicide have come out completely disfigured, with some having limbs missing or taking on strange shapes altogether. This could very well mean that the legends behind the disfigurement could be true, and that, perhaps even to this day, there are inhuman humanoids roaming the jungles. The Patut-Tut monster. Found all across the world, there are stories of large ape-like humans that have commonly been referred to by many as the Yeti or Sasquatch. Interestingly enough, it appears that the Vietnamese are also plagued by such a creature that is referred to by the locals under many different names. Known as the Patut-Tut, the forest people of Vietnam are described as being large ape-like creatures. They often fit the descriptions of the Sasquatch and are believed to inhabit the Vu Quang Nature Reserve that is connected between Vietnam, Laos, and northern Borneo. A number of researchers have found a diverse collection of evidence to support the theory that a hominid creature exists in the region, with footprints, sightings, and recovered bones, only building upon the current held theories surrounding the creature. According to an encounter made back during the Vietnam War, a team of American soldiers claimed to have sighted such a creature that they referred to as the rock ape, given that it would normally be found perched atop a large boulder. The reports given by soldiers claimed that the creature looked far closer to that of an undiscovered ape species. This is because the animal had a reddish tinge to its fur, stood at only 5 feet tall, and made no attempts at running away from the soldiers upon seeing them. There have been no such encounters with the Patut-Tut that have ever been violent in nature, though sightings of the creature have been incredibly rare, with the only major pieces of evidence being centered around the discovery of footprints, bones, and expeditions that have led to little to no results entirely. But what do you all think of these strange tales and mysteries found all across the country of Vietnam? Be sure to let us know in the comments down below, and be sure to share your answers and questions about the video to help grow our community and share insightful comments about the nature of these topics. Hopefully, as we continue to grow our community, we will one day be able to solve these unexplainable mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.